The sterile scent of antiseptic clung to the air, a stark contrast to the faint sweetness of wilting lilies in the corner. My mother's room, once vibrant with the clatter of teacups and the murmur of old sitcoms, now held only the hushed, shallow breaths of a life fading. I sat by her bedside, my hand resting on her papery skin, the foredrip a rhythmic whisper in the quiet. Mark, my brother, was nowhere to be seen. He rarely was when it involved anything less glamorous than a new sports car or a five-star meal. Lily, darling. Her voice was a fragile rasp, barely audible above the hum of the oxygen concentrator. You've been so good to me. Always. A knot tightened in my chest. Good to her? I'd been her caregiver, her chauffeur, her unofficial accountant, her emotional punching bag, her everything, for the better part of a decade. Ever since her first stroke, when Mark had conveniently discovered an urgent business opportunity, overseas that kept him away for 2 years. 2 years I spent navigating doctor's appointments, changing bedpans, and fielding her endless, often unfair, complaints. Of course, Mom, I managed, my voice thick with unshed tears. I love you. She smiled, a weak, fleeting curve of her lips. I know, dear. I know. Her eyes fluttered, then closed. A long, shuddering sigh escaped her, and then silence. Just the faint, mechanical hiss of the machine, now pointless. The funeral was a blur of black suits and strained condolences. Mark, of course, was there, looking impeccably groomed, his grief a well-practiced performance. He hugged me, a brief, perfunctory squeeze, then turned to accept the murmurs of sympathy from distant relatives he barely knew. Terrible loss, Lily, he said, his voice a low, mournful drone. Mother was a good woman. I just nodded, my jaw clenched. Good woman? She was in her own way. But complicated. Oh, so complicated. A week later, the lawyer called. Mr. Henderson, a man whose glasses perpetually slid down his nose, invited Mark and me to his office for the reading of the will. The air in his office was thick with the scent of old paper and stale coffee. Mark sprawled in his chair, a bored expression on his face, while I sat ramrod straight, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat, adjusting his spectacles. As per your mother, Eleanor Vance's, last wishes, I shall now read the contents of her will. He droned on, listing assets: the house, the investment portfolio, the small antique collection. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The moment I'd been bracing for. The moment where my mother, perhaps, would finally acknowledge my years of sacrifice, my unwavering devotion. To her beloved son, Mark Vance, Mr. Henderson continued, his voice flat, I bequeath the family home located at 14 Willow Creek Lane, along with all its contents, including the antique furniture and art collection. Additionally, the entirety of her investment portfolio, valued at approximately $2.3 million, shall be transferred to his name. A sharp, incredulous gasp escaped my lips. My head snapped towards Mark, who was now sitting up, a smug, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. $2.3 million. The house. Everything. And to her daughter, Lily Vance, Mr. Henderson's voice barely registered above the roaring in my ears. I bequeath her mother's silver locket, containing a photograph of the two of them. The silver locket. The cheap, tarnished thing she'd bought at a flea market years ago. Probably worth less than $10. My mother, who owned a diamond necklace worth more than my annual salary, had left me a trinket. A cold, hollow laugh bubbled up from my throat. It wasn't a laugh of amusement, but of pure, unadulterated disbelief, laced with a bitter sting. Is that all? I asked, my voice thin, reedy. Mr. Henderson looked up, his expression unreadable. Yes, Ms. Vance. That is all. Mark chuckled, a low, satisfied sound. Well, Lily, at least you got something sentimental, right? He leaned back, crossing his arms, a picture of insufferable condescension. Mother always did say you were the sentimental one. A searing heat flared in my chest, quickly followed by a chill that spread through my veins. Sentimental? I was the one who cleaned up her vomit, who stayed up all night when her fever spiked, who listened to her endless complaints about Mark's supposed hard work, while he gallivanted across the globe. I was the one who sacrificed my 20s, my career prospects, my social life, to be her constant companion. And for what? A locket. A goddamn locket. You know, Mark, I said, my voice dangerously calm. It's funny. I always thought Mom appreciated my efforts. He shrugged, a dismissive gesture. She appreciated us both, Lily. Just in different ways. Different ways. I scoffed, a humorless sound. You got the house, the millions, the entire damn fortune. I got a piece of costume jewelry. Explain to me how those different ways are equitable. Look, Lily, I don't make the rules, he said, his tone turning defensive. Mother made her wishes clear. Maybe she felt I needed it more. You're so independent, always have been. Independent. That was their word for conveniently self-sufficient, so we don't have to bother. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. The sound echoed in the quiet office. Mr. Henderson looked uncomfortable, his gaze darting between us. You know what, Mark? I began, my voice rising, losing its careful calm. You're right. I am independent. So independent, in fact, that I don't need a single thing from this family. Not a dime, not a locket, not even a memory. His eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I'm talking about cutting ties, I declared, the words feeling like a physical release, a heavy burden lifted. You want the money? Have it. You want the house? Enjoy it. But don't you dare, not ever again, expect me to be the dutiful daughter, the responsible sister, the one who picks up your slack. Lily, don't be dramatic, he scoffed, waving a hand dismissively. You're upset. You'll cool down. Oh, I'm not upset, Mark. I'm enlightened, I retorted, a bitter smile twisting my lips. I've finally seen the truth. My entire life, I've been the backup plan, the safety net, the one who cleans up the mess while you swan around, playing the golden boy. Well, no more. I turned to Mr. Henderson, who looked like he wanted to sink into his expensive desk. Mr. Henderson, if there are any papers that require my signature to formally renounce any claim to this locket or anything else, please send them to my address. Otherwise, I'm done. Without another word, I walked out, leaving Mark sputtering and Mr. Henderson looking utterly bewildered. The heavy oak door thudded shut behind me, a final, definitive sound. The cool air of the street was a welcome shock against my heated skin. I took a deep, shaky breath, then another. A strange mix of devastation and exhilaration coursed through me. It hurt, a deep, primal ache of betrayal. But underneath that, a fierce, defiant joy bloomed. I was free. The next few days were a blur of practicalities. I packed my meager belongings from the small apartment I rented, a space I'd barely furnished because I'd always assumed I'd inherit the family home. Foolish, naive Lily. I called my landlord, gave notice. I needed a fresh start, a complete reset. My best friend, Clara, came over, her eyes wide with concern as I recounted the scene at the lawyer's office. She sat on my worn sofa, listening patiently, occasionally letting out a soft moan of disbelief. She did what? Clara finally exclaimed, running a hand through her fiery red hair. Lily, that's beyond cruel. After everything you did for her. Cruel is an understatement, I said, tossing a framed photograph of my mother and me into a box. Her face, smiling, seemed to mock me. It's a slap in the face. A declaration that my worth, my love, my sacrifices amounted to a $10 piece of metal. So, you're really cutting them off? Clara asked, her voice hushed. Absolutely, I affirmed, my voice firm. No calls, no visits, no Christmas cards. Nothing. They made their choice. Now I'm making mine. Clara nodded slowly. I respect that. It takes guts, Lily. But are you sure? It's your family. Some family, I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping me. They're not family, Clara. They're a liability. A constant drain on my emotional, physical, and financial resources. I'm tired of being the responsible one, the unappreciated one. I'm done. The following week, I moved into a tiny studio apartment across town, a place far from the familiar streets of my childhood, far from the ghost of my mother's house. I changed my phone number. I blocked Mark's number and my mother's old landline number, just in case. I even deactivated my old social media accounts and started new ones under a different name, a clean slate. It felt drastic, even to me, but the thought of seeing their names, their faces, hearing their voices was unbearable. For a while, there was silence. A blissful, liberating silence. No calls demanding I pick up groceries, no texts asking for money, no passive-aggressive comments about my life choices. I started working more hours at my job as a paralegal, saving every penny. I enrolled in an online course to get my real estate license, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the time or energy for. I started going to the gym, eating healthier, rediscovering hobbies I'd long abandoned. The emptiness where my family used to be was slowly, steadily, filling with myself. Then the calls started. Not to my new number, of course, but to Clara. Mark, using his charm offensive, trying to get her to give him my new contact information. He called again. Clara told me one evening, her voice laced with annoyance. Said he's worried about you. Wants to make sure you're okay. Worried? I snorted. He's worried I'll spill the beans about his inheritance. Or maybe he's just realized he lost his personal assistant. He sounded genuinely concerned, Lily, Clara insisted, though her tone softened. He said he wants to talk. To explain. Explain what? I asked, my voice flat. That he was Mother's favorite and I wasn't? That's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? He also said he's had some issues with the house, Clara ventured carefully. Apparently, it needs a lot of work. And the taxes are higher than he thought. And the investment portfolio isn't performing as well as he expected. I burst out laughing, a loud, unrestrained peal of mirth that surprised even myself. It was a dark, satisfying sound. Oh, the poor millionaire. My heart bleeds for him. He sounds stressed, Lily, Clara said, trying to be fair. He even asked if you could help him find a good contractor. My laughter died, replaced by a cold, hard anger. He wants me to help him? The man who inherited everything, who never lifted a finger to help our mother, now wants me to solve his problems? Tell him to hire a damn property manager. Tell him to use some of that millions to pay for it. I told him you weren't interested in reconnecting, Clara sighed. He didn't take it well. He actually yelled at me. He screamed, "She's my sister. She can't just disappear." Watch me, I murmured, a fierce resolve hardening my gaze. Watch me disappear. Months turned into a year. I got my real estate license. I landed a job at a small, reputable firm, and I was good at it. I was working hard, making my own money, building my own life. I felt lighter, freer, more myself than I ever had. The constant hum of anxiety that had accompanied my life as the dutiful daughter had finally faded. Then came the email, from an old, rarely used account of Mark's. I almost deleted it, but curiosity, a dangerous beast, gnawed at me. The subject line read, "Urgent Mother's Estate." I opened it. It was a rambling, desperate plea. The house was a money pit. The investments had taken a hit. He'd made some bad decisions, apparently. He was bleeding money. He needed help. My help. He even offered me a share of the house if I came back and helped him sort things out. A share. My own house, my own inheritance, now dangled as a bribe. I leaned back in my chair, a slow, predatory smile spreading across my face. He was finally feeling the pinch. The consequences of a life of entitlement. It was a delicious thought. I typed out a reply, short and to the point. Dear Mark, I hope this email finds you well. I'm sorry to hear about your financial difficulties. As you may recall, I am no longer involved in the family's affairs. I wish you the best of luck in resolving your situation. Sincerely, Lily Vance. I hit send. A wave of profound satisfaction washed over me. No anger, no resentment, just a calm, unwavering certainty. This wasn't about revenge. It was about self-preservation. About finally choosing myself. A few weeks later, Clara called, her voice buzzing with news. Lily, you won't believe it. Mark's selling the house. My breath hitched. The house? Already? Yep. Apparently, he can't afford the upkeep. And he's trying to liquidate some of the investments, but they're not doing well. He's in a real bind. Good, I said, the word a whisper. Good for him. He's also been asking about you again, Clara continued. He actually showed up at my work. He was pacing outside, muttering to himself. He said, and I quote, Lily always knew how to handle things. She was the sensible one. He actually moaned. Oh, Lily, where are you? It was quite a spectacle. I closed my eyes, picturing it. Mark, the golden boy, reduced to a desperate, whining mess. The thought brought a strange sense of peace. He was learning, the hard way, what it felt like to be responsible, to bear the weight of consequences. He also said, Clara hesitated, that he wished he'd split the inheritance with you. That it was a mistake. A mistake. Not a betrayal. Not an injustice. Just a mistake. But it was something. It was an acknowledgement, however belated, however self-serving. Too little, too late, Clara. I said, my voice soft but firm. Too little, too late. The phone lines stayed silent from his end after that. I heard through Clara that he sold the house, moving into a much smaller place. His grand life had shrunk. Mine, however, was expanding. I was thriving. I had my own apartment, my own career, my own friends, my own peace. One evening, as I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below, I thought of my mother. I thought of the locket, still tucked away in a box somewhere. I didn't hate her. I understood, in a way, that she was a product of her own upbringing, her own biases. She'd loved Mark differently, perhaps, not more, but in a way that indulged his weaknesses and ignored my strengths. But understanding didn't mean forgiveness, not in the sense of re-entering that toxic dynamic. It meant acceptance of what was, and the courage to walk away. I hadn't gained millions or a grand old house, but I had gained something far more valuable: my freedom, my self-worth, and a quiet, unshakable confidence that I was finally living a life on my own terms, beholden to no one. The silver locket remained in its box, a forgotten relic. My true inheritance was the silence, the space, and the profound, liberating knowledge that I was finally, truly my own.